Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up your Canon Rebel T7 or EOS 2000D straight out of the box. But first, let me tell you about the guide we have for the Rebel T7. It's a really useful introduction to the camera, and it also tells you about other similar cameras which are available on the market today. It's an entirely free download, and you can get it by clicking here or in the description below, and we'll send it to you absolutely free and straight away. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that if you have bought this Canon T7 or EOS 2000D, then you have bought an excellent DSLR camera. The main difference between this camera and the Canon T6 or 1300D is the file size. And now the 24 megapixel file size, which is in this camera, puts the T7 on a par with the best cameras in its category. And so you have got no excuse for not taking some great pictures with this camera. Okay, so let's set the camera up properly. The first thing you need to do is to charge your battery. Now, you probably got the battery when you bought the camera, and the first inclination, of course, is to put the battery in and start taking pictures. But it is recommended to charge the battery fully before you put it into the camera. And the reason for that is it will help to extend the battery life. It only takes 3 or 4 hours, and it's worth doing if it helps extend the battery life and you don't have to buy a new one. So charge your battery, and then if we look here, I'll just turn this around so we can see it. This is where the battery goes, into the bottom of the camera. You open the door like this. And if you look at the battery, then you see that you've got the electrodes on one end and there'll be a Canon logo on the battery. So you have the electrodes facing the camera and the logo facing you, and it will go in like that. Now, like most modern batteries, it will only go in one way. So if it doesn't go in very easily, then the chances are you've got it in the wrong way round. And when it goes in, it will click with this clip here that keeps the battery in. And when you want to take the battery out, you just undo the clip and it bounces out. The second thing to do is to put in your memory card. Now, most professionals that I know tend to use SanDisk memory cards. And there's one good reason for that, and that is that most of these cards have a lifetime guarantee. That means that if the disk gets damaged or corrupted in any way that's not through negligence, then SanDisk will replace the card. It's worth bearing in mind, though, that they will not replace the content on the card because they don't know what that is, obviously. So if you've got a 16 gigabyte card and you've got 10 gigabytes of information, videos and stills on it, and then it becomes corrupted, they will only replace the card. And that is an important lesson to learn right from the start, and it's a good idea, in fact it's almost essential, to have somewhere where you can keep these pictures and videos permanently and safely. And that usually means it's an external hard drive, but at least when you have shot some pictures, it's a good idea to put them into your desktop on a laptop or onto your desktop computer, at least to keep them safe. But an external hard drive really is recommended. But this is the card, and likewise it has the electrical conductors here, and it has the logo on the front, and if you put it this way so that the logo faces you and it goes into that little slot above the battery, then you can just slide it in again and shut the door, and that is your camera with the battery and the memory card. Now, the next thing you need to do is put on the lens. This is the kit lens that came with the camera. It's an EFS 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens, which is a pretty good lens, and it's certainly a very good starter lens. It gives you a lot of scope to take lots of different types of pictures. This Canon camera is an APS-C camera, which means it's a crop frame camera. Now, there are two types of camera for DSLRs, essentially for 35mm anyway. It's a full frame or it's a crop frame. This is a crop frame camera, which means that the sensor is slightly smaller than a full frame. And the advantage for that, for us anyway, is that the camera is smaller and lighter, and the lenses are smaller and lighter. And the quality is still, well, professional level quality. Now, this camera will take either EFS or EF lenses, but the recommended lens group for this is the EFS group of lenses. And when you change your lens, now or in other times, try to keep the camera in such a way that dust and dirt can't drop into it. The reason for that is that the sensor inside of here is very sensitive, and if it gets dust and dirt on it, then it will damage not just the sensor, but it will affect your pictures and your videos, and it's incredibly difficult to clean. So the recommendation is that you don't leave the camera open any longer than it needs to be open, and that you keep it facing roughly downwards to prevent anything dropping into it. So let's just take this off the lens to start off with, and then we'll take the front cover off the camera, keeping it slightly facing down. Now, if we look at the lens, there's a square here, white square, and if we look on the ring here, there's a white dot, and you need to just marry those up and turn it clockwise until you hear the click. Once it's clicked, it means it's fixed onto the camera. And because it is an EFS lens, it's now communicating with the camera, and so it will help with autofocus and auto exposure. The next thing you need to do is switch it on. When you want to go into the menus in the camera, it's very important to make sure that you're on manual mode. And the reason for that is that when you press menu button, you get all the menu tabs going across the top. If for any reason you were on a different semi-automatic or a completely automatic option, then when you press the menu options, you don't get all the tabs going across the top. And so it is important to be in manual when you start to change things inside your camera. The first time the camera is switched on, the screen will ask you to set the date, the time zone, and the language. The date and time information will be added to the metadata for each image that you shoot. You can change these details by using the cross keys and pressing set. Once you've set the time and date, you can now set the date format, either the UK version, which is date, month and year, or you can choose a different one, either year, month and date, or month, date and year. Once you've chosen the one you want, you press set again, and then you go on to daylight saving time, and you go on to time zone and region. Once everything is correct, you can just press OK. If you want to go back at any time to change the time, the date or the language, you'll find them in Setup tab 2. The next thing you need to do is format your card. If it's a new card or a card that you've taken from a previous camera, it's really important to format it so that the card and the camera will work together. The way you do that is by pressing Menu and then moving up to Setup tab 1. And here you can see Format the card. Now, the important thing to remember here is when you format the card, you will lose everything. Even pictures and videos which you may have protected will be deleted. So you must know that everything that's on the card has either been copied or is something that you don't want before you format your card. But if you are happy to do that, then you click OK and it will format the card and prepare it for use by this camera. The next thing to do is to look through the viewfinder and to see if what you can see through it looks sharp. If you don't have 20/20 vision, or if you wear glasses, then even though the autofocus on the camera gets the picture absolutely sharp, when you're looking through the viewfinder, it may look out of focus. By using the dioptric adjuster here, you can change the view through the viewfinder so that it is sharp when the camera says it's sharp too. Bear in mind that if you have the lens on autofocus, the camera will automatically focus the image even if it doesn't look sharp to you through the viewfinder. If you find the brightness of the LCD monitor either too bright or too dark, then you can change that by going to Setup tab 2. If you click on LCD brightness, then you can choose to either make it brighter or darker. However, do remember that the optimum setting for checking exposure on the live view screen is 4. There's nothing more irritating than the camera switching itself off when you're still trying to compose a picture. Whilst it helps to save the battery life, it can interrupt your train of thought and slow you down. You can change the length of time it takes for the camera to turn off by going to Setup tab 1. And choosing Auto Power Off. Here you see you'll have a choice between 30 seconds and 15 minutes, and you can disable it completely if you choose. I find that setting it to 1 minute is a good compromise. The ISO setting manages the sensitivity of your sensor to the light coming into the camera. The Canon T7 will be on Auto ISO setting to begin with, which is very convenient in most cases. However, you will want to control this at some point, not least because the ISO setting has a direct impact on the quality of your image. It's easy to control the ISO by using the cross keys. Press the top one labelled ISO and the ISO options will appear on the LCD screen. As a rule of thumb, ISO 100 to 400 is suitable for sunny or bright light, 400 to 1600 for overcast or dusk, and 1600 to 6400 for low light and nighttime shots. The next thing to consider is the file size and compression ratio. The Canon T7 will shoot a 24 megapixel file, and that's a very high quality image. The JPEG compression rate will decide the quality of the image when it's stored on your memory card, and also how many images you can save on your card. Obviously, it's best to choose the best compression rate. To make the choice, go into Shooting tab 1 and go to the top choice, which is Image Quality. You'll see that this is on Large, which is 24 megapixels. The quarter circle next to the L represents the best compression quality. You can see here that I can save 448 images like this. If I move down one to medium compression quality, you will see that that number goes up to 915, even though the file stays the same size. If I change the file size from large to medium, with best compression quality, the number of images I can save changes again. And if I change that to medium compression, the number goes up again. However, because today you can buy very large memory cards, I prefer to choose large file size and best compression quality. If you want to know more, then why not take a look at our manual, which has been specially written for this camera. In fact, we're giving away a sample of our manual absolutely free. It contains 2 full course videos, including the full video on shooting movies with the Rebel T7. All you have to do is click on the link here or in the description below, and we'll send it to you straight away, absolutely free.